Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to have a discussion about Cathay and why I believe they should be implemented as a DLC faction in Total War Warhammer. Before anything, all the art which is shown in this video is fan art, which will have a direct link in the description below, but without further ado, let's begin. Cathay is a rather hot topic in the Total War Warhammer community. Every now and then, a few forum posts, Reddit posts, and so on will appear online, with speculations regarding the possible inclusion of this race into Total War Warhammer. Now, of course, as of the time of recording this video, we are still not aware if Cathay will ever be implemented. This is simply because, while Cathay was established in the lore of Warhammer Fantasy very early in the series' lifespan, it really never got fleshed out too much. In later days, they did get a little bit more lore, more specifically throughout the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay series. There were little tidbits of information also added in the later editions of Warhammer Fantasy Tabletop, but even then it was always quite minuscule. What was established, however, is that the Grand Empire of Cathay lived true to its name, a mighty empire with a seemingly endless supply of soldiers. Due to the lack of information regarding Cathay in a more mysterious way, many have asked for the inclusion of this nation into the Total War Warhammer series, and I understand why. It's one of those races, like I said, that don't have much information, but any information that was presented always made them to be fairly powerful. Of course, given the amount of posts by fans on social media, it is likely that both Creative Assembly and Games Workshop are aware of the demand, and their implementation could indeed be possible. There are of course multiple reasons to suggest why. The main reason being that Games Workshop once stated that they'd like to push out their products into the eastern regions of the world. The introduction of Cathay into Total War Warhammer could be a way to do so, even as a possible testing ground for Warhammer the Old World. This is a conclusion that many fans have come to themselves, and because of this, many believe that Cathay might be a base game faction for Warhammer 3. However, to be completely honest, I don't think they'll be a base game faction. I still hold out hope that they might eventually get announced, but if they do, it's most likely in the form of a DLC. And there's a few reasons why. Firstly, if we look towards the other Total War Warhammer games, the base game factions that were released with them all had their own official army books. Game 1 had the Empire, the Orcs and Goblins, the Dwarfs, and the Vampire Counts, where Game 2 had the Lizardmen, the High Elves, the Dark Elves, and the Skaven. So it's likely that Warhammer 3's base game races will focus around factions that had an army book. These would most likely be the Demons of Chaos, the Dogs of War, the Ogre Kingdoms, the Chaos Dwarfs, or even Kislev. Cathay did not unfortunately have its own army book, which means there's not a lot of source material to go around. Generally, the races that also end up being base game races are usually the main focus when it comes to DLC or FLC content. The perfect example of this would be the races of Game 2, where most of them already have 6 playable legendary lords, where originally they all started with just 2. Now, the argument could be said that Kislev, like Cathay, doesn't have an official army book. Kislev had a supplement more akin to that of the Vampire Coast. However, unlike Cathay, we already have confirmed by Games Workshop that Kislev is getting an official rework for Warhammer the Old World. So Creative Assembly would have a lot of source material to work from, whereas Cathay once again has next to none. Of course, I have seen people mentioning the fact that Creative Assembly could work on Cathay themselves, possibly by even using assets from Three Kingdoms, and while that could be possible, there's also a bit of an issue here. Firstly, anything which is newly created by Creative Assembly, as in stuff with no lore and so on, has to be passed by Games Workshop for approval, Those who know full well about Games Workshop will know that they are extremely defensive of their IP. Secondly, when it comes to the creation of their own things specifically, I'm of course referring to Creative Assembly here, it wasn't received rather well. I'm of course talking about Lady Diaphin, a complete original creation from the Vampire Coast. And let's be very honest here, she was not received very well. I personally liked Diaphin, but I understand where a lot of fans got a bit angry, where there were so many characters implemented in lore that it really made no sense to add her in. So with all that being said, it's probably safer for Creative Assembly to focus on races with official army books for base games. There would just be too much development time involved for a race with no source material whatsoever and having to come up with complete new material. Of course, I could be more than wrong, and Creative Assembly could already be working on Cathay, but again, seeing as they had less source material than say the Vampire Coast or Kislev, would they not be suited better as a DLC pack? Very much how the Vampire Coast and the Tomb Kings were implemented. A race pack down the line with 4 legendary lords, a complete roster, and that's pretty much it. They wouldn't really need anything else. Yes, the Tomb Kings need stuff because they didn't have a full roster implemented, but they were near enough complete. However, more akin to that of the Vampire Coast, where everything pretty much works really well and there's not really anything missing. This would possibly be the best way to implement them, as that means that they wouldn't require any further DLC. As of course, as I stated before, base game races usually end up requiring a decent amount of DLC to finish their rosters. That's not of course saying that we wouldn't possibly see potential Cathay DLC, as of course we've started to see CA implement a DLC for DLC system, but that's a story for another day, more than likely if Creative Assembly ever confirm the announcement of Cathay. But what do you guys think about this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.